Following the Volkswagen emission scandal, MEPs tabled a debate on the consequences for the health, environment and trust in the EU's automotive industry.
Because we really face a very difficult case of fraud, let me call it very frankly, a fraud of one company. And this fraud put in stake public trust in European cars. As seriously, this put at stake the credibility of our legal system and its efficiency for protecting consumers and the environment. And these are the backbones of European Union's actions and regulations. I believe we will be able to overcome it. I thank the European Parliament for giving me this opportunity to share the information, and also at the very beginning I want to say that I am ready to continue providing you with every piece of information on our future actions to ensure that this will not happen again.
Vicky Ford MEP, Chair of the Internal Market and Consumer Affairs Committee. Can European consumers trust the European automotive industry?
Well, we need to rebuild that trust, and we cannot allow the Volkswagen scandal to taint the entire industry. So there needs to be a full investigation in all member states, actually of all manufacturers, because we need to be certain that this isn't being done elsewhere. We need to rebuild that trust for the Volkswagen consumers, for the people who are thinking about buying other cars, and because actually we do need people to drive diesel. We need to do that investigation so that we can make our trading partners around the world have trust again in great European companies. And we need to do that as well, looking at who knew from the authorities. And this needs to be coordinated across all 28 member states, because it is a single market. So if you have one member state letting the side down, as it were, that has repercussions across all 28.
At a time when the European Commission is calling for less and better regulation, does this make the case for more regulation?
Well, interestingly, we already knew, and we've known for a while now, that the tests both of emissions and of how much fuel you use in your car were not mirroring what we were seeing in real life. So for a few years now, it's been law that we are going to be introducing these real-world tests, and the Commission is meant to be coming up by the end of this year with a clear description of what those tests are going to be. And then from the end of next year, manufacturers have to comply with them. The point I made in the chamber just now is that the Commission needs to keep us as parliamentarians involved. We actually had the Commission in over a month ago now to give us an update, and they didn't give us enough details. Okay, we are expected to scrutinise these laws. That's our job. That's what 500 million consumers across Europe expect us to do. And we need to do that job properly, and we need to not just talk about better regulation. We talk about it in the chamber all the time. We actually need to do it.
Catherine Fior, EU reporter. I have a question, Volkswagen. You've called for enhanced supervision of results. Given that there was outright fraudulent behaviour, should we be looking at criminal prosecutions? That's my first question. And the second question is, Transport and Environment have highlighted other companies where the results that they claim to have do not appear to match real-world results. Should those companies also be investigated? That's my first question. Thank you.
The problem for me is I don't want to escape the criminal activity and the criminal prosecution necessary I see for the VW gate. Yeah? But in the same time, I'm not the only one who knew that the test cycles in Europe also were not giving us the right results for the cars of other manufacturers. The gap in between the results in the labs, so tests in the labs, in the laboratories, and the real emissions on the roads, the gap is huge and different for different types of cars. And the EU Commission has, as soon as possible, to close this gap. We need this better test cycle. But in addition, I'm meanwhile also convinced that we need a common European authority for type certification and the testing before and the controls after.
Catherine Fior, EU reporter. I have a question about the emissions issues in Volkswagen. The impact, we've seen how effective the Environmental Protection Agency has been in the States at highlighting this problem. Does this have an impact for how the EU regulates? Do we need a stronger centralised regulatory authority? Do we need larger fines? I'd also like to ask you, how do you feel about German shareholders who are currently examining the possibility of taking legal proceedings against Volkswagen? Thank you very much.
Ich möchte mich nur äußern zu den europäischen Aufgaben, weil die anderen nationalen Fragen, dortigen Ermittlungen, nationale
question. I think the national one relates to national competences, but at a European level, I think we have to carry out a careful analysis and investment to see if the mechanisms we have in place are sufficient. So if those existing systems fail or not, that's the Commission that will have to carry out an assessment there to see if those systems are capable of